What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the pod. Today we have another awesome guest with us. We have Dr. Aboul-Fettouh, who is a dermatologist who just recently started a private practice. So this is a topic I'm very passionate about as I'm interested in starting my own practice. And it's cool to see young docs who are just out of residency taking that leap and starting a practice themselves. So welcome to the podcast. Super looking forward to talking with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on here. I'm excited that you have it in the vision as well. It's fun. It's rewarding. So I'm just glad to be here and get a chance to talk and teach about it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. So, for those that are, I guess, not familiar with you, can you give a quick background on maybe your journey to this point? Like, how far out are you? Did you jump right from residency into starting the practice, and just walk us through a little bit how you got to this point?
Yeah, sure. So I did med school in Dallas at UT Southwestern. I did my residency in dermatology in Houston at UT Health and MD Anderson Cancer Center. And then I did a fellowship in Mohs surgery in Minnesota at Mayo Clinic. And I did have an idea of starting the practice directly out of fellowship. I did explore that. I ended up not going through with it for a multitude of reasons. And so thereafter, I went to Houston. I worked for an awesome group out there, but I needed to head back to Dallas, which was home for me. You know, that's where my parents are and my brother. And so I ended up taking that journey. I have a couple friends who've done it before me who were great mentors. And we are now, this is our third week open. And so it's been exciting, but
Congratulations.
thank you so much. But it's been, we're right at the gate, just got out, and it's been fun.
Awesome. So how long did you work before you decided to start your own practice?
I worked for, kind of 1 to 2 years. So I worked for 1 year at another group practice. And then it takes about, I would say, if you're going to take insurance, it takes about 12 months from the day of, hey, I want to open my practice to actually being able to open doors. And we can talk about that timeline in detail. But during those 12 months where I had left my group and then was waiting for everything to get set up, I did locums. And so
Got
that
it.
was a good way to kind of pick and choose my schedule, worked at a couple different places, and help keep an income stream in order to afford more of the practice stuff, the equipment, and kind of try to limit on the loan that I had to take.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's interesting. I was thinking, like, if I were to start a practice right out of fellowship, then I can't rely on potentially making any money in the beginning, and I would do locums maybe 2 days a week while still building up the practice. I'm curious what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be based really on the bank. And the bank does not, they want you to be fully focused 100% when the practice is open, that you're with the bank. Now, realistically, do people do that? I would say 1 day a week, absolutely perfectly fine. 2 days a week might be a little bit too much, but your patients, you might want to schedule a Wednesday or a Thursday. And so you're kind of like, anytime you want to come in, you know, feel free to schedule during that
Right.
time. And so the bank did want me to be doing locums while the construction was happening. So actually, one of the parts of my loan was that I had to show them that I was going to have some income stream, that I wasn't going to sit there and do nothing, so that they knew I was still
Interesting.
getting some revenue, but up until it opened. And then once it opens, they kind of want you to be full force.
Is that because this is such an interesting topic? I feel like nobody goes into with like
Yeah,
getting a bank
that's
loan
what
to
I'm
start
here
a
for.
private practice. So was that because you already had to make payments on that loan, or and at that point have you already taken out the loan, and so they wanted you generating income?
Good question. So no, I had used Bank of America, which has a pretty good physician practice loan program. They there's a well, I took out two loans. I took out one loan on the real estate, and I took out one on the practice startup loan. But for this part, we're just going to assume that I don't have the real estate. I only have the practice startup loan. The practice loan, you only start paying on that once it closes, and the closes time is once the practice is open. And they do kind of a
Hmm.
deferred payment system in where you don't have to pay that much during those first 6 months. So it's kind of like an upgrade. First 6 to 12 months is
Hmm.
pretty low. And then the next 12 months, a little bit higher. And then by your third or fourth year is when the payments get significantly bigger, but nothing too crazy. Um, and so it kind of also works based on, if you are leasing a space, your landlord will give you usually a certain amount of time for the construction and whatnot to happen, where you don't pay rent up until you're at least open. So all these things are negotiable in that you could be getting things going without actually having to make payments.
Got it. That's interesting. And but is there the same interest rate that's occurring at that, or I can't even pronounce
Yeah.
it.
So
Is interest being collect or going up as you're making minimal payments in those first 2 years?
yeah, it gets into the nitty gritty and
Accruing.
detail.
Thank you. That was what I was trying to say.
Typically, everything starts once that loan is closed, but they calculate out how much your interest is, and they kind of write out all the payments, including what the interest rate payments are. And then, but the loan doesn't close because one, you may not spend as much as you need. Now, usually you do max out your loan based on a variety of things and for a variety of reasons, but it doesn't actually go in full force and start accruing everything up until then. But they will give you what the payments are that include the interest, so you know what to expect.
Gotcha. So, okay, so it's sort of like they calculate the interest in the beginning and then they just spread out the payments ahead of time. Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the interest is locked in when you
Yeah.
get that loan. So my interest was locked in even 6, 7, 8 months
Mm-hmm.
before I actually opened the practice, and now the interest rates were still a tiny bit better than what everyone else gets because it's a physician practice loan. So you do save maybe 0.5 to 1% off of what you would get, for example, if you were buying a house. And so there's an advantage there. And then you always want to ask about refinancing options down the line and say, hey, 3, 4 years later, interest rates have dropped. Can I refinance this loan? Can I pay it off? What can I
Mm-hmm.
do? And those are all discussions with the bank and trying to figure out, with your agent, what you're going to do.
You brought up agent. That led me to my next question. I was going to say, so did you go and negotiate this with the bank yourself, or you had someone who was representing you trying to get you the loan?
So honestly, there was not that much negotiations. I mean, I would recommend everybody at least talk to 2 to 3 banks. Throughout this entire process, anytime you make a decision, you've got to talk to 2 or 3 of something.
Right.
Whether it's a contractor, whether you're ordering supplies, whether you're talking about a loan, you're getting 2 or 3 quotes every single time. And that's because you've got to compare and make sure that you're getting a market rate. Because as soon as they hear that you're opening a physician office, all of a sudden the prices skyrocket and say, oh,
Right.
like,
Of course.
you know, this physician clinic needs this. So you want to make sure that you're getting, a fair deal. And I would always say it's nice to get a national bank in there. It's also nice to get a regional bank in there, maybe a local bank, and they all have pros and cons. I will say that I'm not paid for by Bank of America or anything like that, but they do have a physician practice loan setup that helps. I mean, they help me minimize a lot of the closing costs and things like that because they realize how expensive it gets up front, and for them, it's such a low risk thing.
Mm-hmm.
They have a 99.5% success rate on these. The only time somebody fails is if they just decide they don't want to be a business owner anymore,
Right.
which is perfectly fine. But it's very few times that somebody wants to open a practice and just fails because they can't get patients. I mean, we have a huge shortage.
Right. That's interesting. Now, do you think that applies to all specialties? Because obviously, dermatology is definitely a desired specialty, probably for the banks and in general.
I mean, we definitely excel at shortages. I'll tell you that. A lot of dermatologists have 3, 4, 5 month wait lists, but nationally, we've got a physician shortage. Every single specialty, including primary care. I mean, I've had to call, make appointments for myself or family members, and always it's hard to get in. Like, hey, can I get on
Mm-hmm.
the wait list and things like that, or you can see, one of our PAs or NPs, and then you can get a follow up with a physician afterwards. There's a lot of different ways that people are trying to fix this shortage and get access to patients. But I would say almost every specialty it's doable and you'll get patients. Now the uphill climb is different. I will say for dermatology specifically, it's probably one of the easiest specialties to open a private practice because we don't have that much expensive equipment. Now I do Mohs surgery, so even that is not the biggest ordeal in the world. We're talking about 50 to 100,000. But if you're an ophthalmologist and you want to start doing surgeries, not only do you need to figure out where your ASC, your ambulatory
Mm-hmm.
surgery center, is going to be, but you also need like $1 million or $1.5 million worth of equipment, and the stuff that they use is very, very expensive. So there is a different uphill climb based on the specialty. But I would say anybody that wants to open a private practice could.
Makes sense. Now, I know that it varies, but kind of similar to what you just said, right? Depending on the specialty, you may need to buy expensive machinery or whatnot. And I'm only asking this because I've seen you already be very transparent with the finances on TikTok. So you don't have to give me your exact numbers, but just like a range. What does it look like when you're taking out one of these loans in terms of, are we talking on the average like $500,000 to $1 million to start a practice? Lower than that, way higher than that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The reason I've been transparent is because I had these exact same questions as a medical student, as a resident, and it all seems so daunting and you can't find anything online. And at some point I want to put it all together and, make a guide to help you, help my colleagues out and get all of us out there. So for a dermatology practice, one, it'll depend on your location. If you're in the middle of LA versus Texas versus New York City, because a huge part of your overhead is your rent and how much
Mm.
you're paying for your space. And then the second one is your staff. How much do you have to pay your staff? And those locations, that differs whether you're paying $30 an hour for staff versus 19 an hour, whether you're paying 11,000 for rent versus 19,000. For me, the practice startup in Dallas was 500,000. And so that was going to include the build out for the actual space itself. Whether you lease or you buy a space, you need a contractor to get it ready for you to move in and see patients. That includes working capital of about 40, 50,000, where you just have that in the bank account to pay staff until collections are coming in and revenues coming in, because it takes sometimes up to 90 days to see payments from insurance companies
Mm-hmm.
after you see the patient. And that includes another 30, 40, 50,000 for equipment, supplies, all the little things here, computers. I mean, I've really been able to see like all the things you just forget about when you go work somewhere and
Right,
you're like, oh, you just
right.
expect it all to be there. And then now you've got to put a shopping list and you're like, I need pens, I need highlighters, I need computers, just little things like
Everything.
that.
Every little
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah. And so you can basically expand that onto other specialties. Like, let's say you're an orthopedic surgeon. You're like, well, how much do I need to open a practice? Well, at least for your clinic space, that's about how much. And then you can add, all right, what equipment, ambulatory surgery center, what does that look like? And kind of separate it out. So even though my journey is going to be different from other specialties, I feel like the info can still be helpful to those surgeons or people with the need for all this equipment, because they still need clinic space and at least be able to see patients somewhere outside of the OR.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And thank you for the transparency. So what did you said you mentioned staff? What did you think was, because like my concern is I'm going to hire all this staff and I don't have a way to pay him, like unless I had working capital from the loan before we start seeing enough patients. So what did you decide on the initial staff that you needed? I would imagine like at least like a front desk person, an office manager that could play a couple different roles in the beginning, and then like a medical assistant. But where did you land on that?
Yeah, and that's an important thing for the bank too, because they want you to be bare bones, right? You don't need to keep your overhead high while you're not making money. And so for me, I needed one person to staff the phones and schedule patients. That's front desk. And then I need one person on the clinical side, a medical assistant that's either helping me in the room or helping me with a surgery. So I got two staff members. Now, you mentioned office manager. And an office manager, I would put in the luxury category. And that's for a few different reasons. So an office manager would be incredibly helpful right now, tremendously helpful, if I could say, because I'm doing all the roles. I've got all the hats. But there's a couple disadvantages to having one from day one. And one of those is that you want to know the ins and outs of every single thing that runs in your clinic, right? How do I schedule this? How do I overbook this? How do I order this supply? How do I get this lab? If somebody is out of the clinic, if you have an office manager and he or she's not there, how do you do this? That's the big thing that
Mm-hmm.
we want to talk about and say, okay, you need to be on top of everything. So it's a big expense to hire an office manager from the get go. But number two, you just want to be able to do it all, because down the line, somebody might leave, somebody might be sick. God forbid something happens to them, and then the clinic, needs to run. Patients still need to get their care, and I would say, it would be a big disadvantage to having one up front and not knowing exactly how everything runs.
Makes sense. And I would say, like, someone who at this point, because it is harder to start a private practice as a physician, I feel like, than it used to be, and less people are doing it. I suspect that the people that are doing it want to run a business and understand that. And so most likely are going to try and learn all these different things that you're going to need to do. But that does make sense, to figure it all out first. And then once you have extra capital and a full patient list and census, then you could start to get the more luxury roles.
Yeah, yeah, and then you hire somebody and they can help take things off, off your to-do list, and they can help you out. And then if something, they're sick or they're on vacation, you can still take over. You know what's going on. You know how things are efficient. But that's also even for the bookkeeping part. You know, if you want to run a business, then you got to ask, why am I doing this? And really, if you're running the business, you should be doing the bookkeeping. You should be doing every aspect. You should be teaching and learning and everything with your staff, and taking control, because that's the fun part. I would say number one is, if somebody wants to go and start their private practice, they should do a deep dive on, why am I doing this? And not only did I do that and ask myself, I asked some of my mentors, and I said, some of them had open practices. I asked, do you think I should do it? What do you recommend? Would you do it again? And one of my mentors told me, look, if you're doing it for the money, you're going to be miserable. And the reason why is, you're going to always be looking at overhead. You're going to look at profit. What else can I do? How much is going in? How much is going out? And that strain is going to be 24/7 for the rest of your life. But if you want to do it to build a community and be able to provide jobs and build things the way you want to, and provide patient care the exact way you want to, and not have to worry if something, you need something expensive to help take care of your patients, or one of your patients who's been there all the time, all of a sudden, has something happen and you need to help them out. You don't have to ask, your boss, or worry about anything else. And he said for him, that was
That's
anything
cool.
and everything for him, and why he loved owning his own practice.
Yeah, I feel like just the freedom of getting to do things your way and having your own patients. I know, like, people who work for academic institutions, or don't have their own practice. It's still their patients too, but it definitely is interesting when it's like your practice and those are the patients, and like you said, a community that you built.
Oh, it's awesome.
So what's no, go
Yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
I said it's fun, but some of my staff, they were joking with me because we didn't have patients scheduled until like 9 a.m. this morning, and we opened at 8. And so I showed up at like 8:15, and they're like, "You're late." you know, and it's like, you do get to choose, like, all right, when am I showing up today?
Right, right. It's true. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have the patient and you're not clocking in, then
Yeah.
so what's your vision for your practice? Like, do you see yourself as a solo practitioner? Would you like to hire other clinicians, whether that as like a PA or like multiple other physicians under you, or partners? What is your plans with your
Yeah,
practice?
no, it's a good question. I mean, it's one step at a time. The space that I got is bigger than just for me. We started with 8 rooms. I only need about 3 or 4. And so I could definitely have another provider in here, whether that's a physician, PA, NP, somebody that can help me. There's a different role in, the medical practice system. There's a lot of different aspects of dermatology. You got the surgery, you got the medical, you got the aesthetic side. We could get an esthetician in here. There's so many different avenues. Now, I want to be able to grow it to the point where I can provide a place that people want to work at. That, if somebody asks me, hey, I need this to provide better patient care, I'm not saying, well, how much does that cost? And I don't want to give you that. And we're looking at, pinching pennies and things like that. I want to be able to provide a place that people want to work at, they're proud of, they're happy to be at. We're taking good care of people. We're not penny pinching. We're caring about our community, because at the end of the day, that's like the best part of all of medicine. I mean, that's the best part of it. Having it's an absolute privilege to be in this field. I will never forget how many hours and how hard it was to get here. And so I just want to be able to look back at the end of my career and be proud of what we've done here at the practice.
That's awesome. Are you doing all, I guess, all the above right now? So you're doing the Mohs surgery, you're doing general dermatology, and then are you also doing aesthetics right now?
So a little mix. So yes and no. So most surgery is mostly referral based. If I do a biopsy for a skin cancer, well, what is Mohs surgery? Mohs surgery is when we cut out skin cancers on sensitive sites. Like if somebody gets a basal cell carcinoma or a melanoma on their nose or their cheek, then usually they get referred to a Mohs surgeon, where we cut it out under local anesthesia. Most Mohs surgeons are dermatologists in their original training. And so a lot of that is referral based. Now, if I do a biopsy, then I will obviously be able to help take care of the Mohs surgery myself. If a dermatologist is another group, does not have a Mohs surgeon, and they do a biopsy, then they'll send that patient out to a Mohs surgeon to get that surgery done. So, as a brand new practice, it's a little bit harder to get those referrals. I mean, I've been trying to meet the community and meet local dermatologists and introduce myself. I did my fellowship at Mayo. You're not sending your patients to somebody
Right
random.
from yeah.
But on the other end, we get a lot of our first few patients just from people looking for a dermatologist. And around here, it's a 2-3 month wait list sometimes. So we've gotten a lot. Majority of our patients have just been medical derm. But I do also do cosmetics. So I'm doing chemical peels, Botox. I know how to do fillers, but we have not implemented that yet for a variety of reasons. You got to pick and choose your battles up front. And I was like, okay, let me just start small on this side, get everything kind
Makes
of
sense.
going, have the practice moving, and then we can add on after that.
Very cool. Yeah, and you're only on week 3, so
Yeah, and we're doing our
there's time.
first nose tomorrow, though. So
Oh, really?
yeah, we've got our first
Congrats.
nose surgery scheduled. Thank you. So primary care sent a patient over. They had a squamous cell carcinoma. We did the biopsy, got that confirmed, and we're going to do Mohs on them tomorrow and get them clear.
So you just do it in the office, or is it a special procedure room?
Yeah, it's just outpatient. We have some big procedure rooms, which are just like the exam rooms, just a little bit bigger. But we do it under local anesthesia, lidocaine with epinephrine. They get pretty much very comfortable. It's a pretty straightforward process. The cutting takes maybe 10, 15 minutes. The lab takes about an hour for the tech to cut the tissue and make me slides. And then stitching, another 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how complicated something is.
So, and then I guess you'll have the medical assistant in the room helping with that.
Yep, yep. They and they're cross trained. So both of the two awesome people that I hired, they both work the front desk and back. They just alternate on different days. I mean,
Oh,
now we're
got it.
slow
Very
enough
cool.
that we're all learning together. But that way, if somebody's out, we're not like, oh, what's going on at the front desk? How do I do this? So
Hmm.
all of us are cross trained. I know how to do stuff on the front desk. I know how to document. They are doing all the same things, and that's a good way to start out so that you're not, dependent on
Hmm.
somebody that may be sick or out.
They also even know how to make TikToks, it sounds like.
And we know how to make TikToks. Yeah, we've been trying, man. We've been trying.
That's good. How I know you mentioned to me before we started filming that you had gotten even some patients from TikTok. How's that going? Is that, I imagine you're well, you said you were there for education and talking about how to start a practice, but I'm also assuming for marketing as well.
No, it's been fun. Honestly, the original reason that I started doing TikToks was not necessarily for marketing. I took it as kind of a challenge. I was like, hey, I'm seeing other people do this, other dermatologists, and I wanted to just challenge myself to say, hey, could I get to 1,000 followers? And I was quickly humbled. I learned how hard it was. I learned how difficult it is to edit videos, make content, takes a lot of time. And you do get a little embarrassed at times when you post a video and it kind of flops, and you're like, "Oh man, okay." But I was, super blessed and lucky. Like I hit 1,000 followers. I was like, oh, cool. This is awesome. I'm glad I did that. Took a little break because I'm still a little bit camera shy. And so it's definitely out of my comfort zone. But now I'm like, it's been a lot of fun to have patients come in. So I'm like, okay, maybe I should post a little bit more. It's awesome to do it with the staff. It's a fun bonding activity. It's
I,
been a good time. And so I need to make more content. I'm just trying to squeeze in the time.
I get it. I'm looking at your TikTok now, even though the follower count is above 1,000 though. The view count is really good. Like, and that's, I think, the good part about TikTok is I don't think they really care the following
Yeah.
or the number of followers you have. If like a video is good, it'll go viral. I see this one has like 180,000 views, and you have a bunch on there. So
Yeah, no, that's been awesome. And I feel like once you get a couple videos with views, you kind of get
yeah,
some street cred.
exactly.
So if you have
It's
one
fine.
flop, you're like, hey, at least I got a
Yeah.
couple others. But I need to put more time into it. I've been trying to find the time. It's a rough few weeks, but I want to post more. I want to make more content for sure, especially on the educational and teaching side, because I know that we don't get a lot of this stuff in med school and residency. And I've had a lot of people be thankful and say, hey, can you do this and this? And I'm more than happy to teach, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, me included. I reached out to you because I saw you were talking about starting a practice, which there's just not that much content about, and I'm getting
It's
closer
crazy,
to
right?
that. So it was very helpful for me to see.
Yeah. I'm always happy to get others involved and support. I mean, I could not have done it without some really awesome friends who helped guide me throughout the process, friends, mentors, and communities. So, and I always tell you're going to start a practice, and then it's going to be your turn for that next resident to be like, hey, what do I do for this? And you can guide them. And for the people who are listening who are pre-med, at some point you're going to be a medical student, you're going to be a resident, and somebody's going to say, hey, how do I get into med school? And we got to always think back about the people that have helped us and just kind of push it forward. And that's one of those things that's so valuable. And I think there's fewer things that give as much satisfaction as that.
100%. I think in medicine, it's a big community of passing it forward and teaching in all areas. I'm looking at your website now too. It's very nice. So here's another niche question for you on this topic. What is your private practice tech stack? So like, did you build out your website and run it, or you have a marketing team do it? And then also the big question I feel like a lot of people ask when they're trying to start a practice is like, which EHR do you go with? Because it's not going to be Epic, which every health system uses, but for private practice, it's just not possible. So there's like then 50 other EHRs you could use. So can you walk us through some of the things, the tools you didn't realize you would have to use that you're using now?
Oh man, we could do a whole another hour on this. This is so I'm probably a little bit more tech savvy than some other physicians. I used to code in high school. I coded with Java. I did a lot of programming stuff. I
Nice.
ended up giving it up to be pre-med when I was an undergrad. But on the tech side, I still understand a lot of the logic behind it. So I use some no code tools and things like that. But let's start with the website. Last year, I ended up having a surgery and I had like 6 weeks off. And so I needed a project for that, post surgical time.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to build a website for another different purpose. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And so I spent a lot of hours during those 6 weeks learning web development. And so the website that for my clinic, the Blue Ribbon Derm website, is off of Webflow, which is also a hosting platform. So it's not like Squarespace or Wix where, you just build it out and you can have a different
Mm-hmm.
host. So Webflow does both. I bought a template for like $50. Now Webflow is a little bit more technically advanced, so it's not really useful for people who just want to quickly get in, make a website in a day.
Right.
I had to do Webflow University, which they have all these free videos, but I did quite a few hours during those 6 weeks of learning. And then I bought a template for $50, adjusted it, and then I had a friend who works in graphics design, and he's got his own business, and he helped me out to kind of make it look pretty and actually change it to make the
It
design
looks
nice.
clean.
But the
Yeah.
actual functionality is completely on me, and that's nice because I get to adjust everything anytime. So I'm constantly updating the insurance list, constantly updating different things on the website. So that's a huge advantage, and you'll find out that there are some companies that anytime you want to do anything, they're like, oh, it's $200. You want to make a new page? You want to make a new button?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
$200.
Marketing is
And
like
it's
crazy like that.
really like a 10-second thing. So Webflow for the website. I'm using Google Workspace for everything behind the scenes. Shared Google Drive. That's where the staff
Mm-hmm.
see all the documents. They can upload stuff. You can even use for contracts and stuff. They have e-signatures with Google Forms, so it's kind of like their version of DocuSign. So I used
Mm-hmm.
a lot on that. My electronic medical record is ModMed. So Emma, which is a part of
Mm-hmm.
ModMed, has probably, I don't know, a majority of the market share of private practice dermatology.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot that goes into it. So they have Clara too, which they acquired several years ago, and that's the text to patient
Right. Which you get.
communication.
Yeah.
So that can automate text like, hey, your appointment is tomorrow. You can also message with patients, HIPAA compliant. So Clara is a part of that. They also have fax and things like that. But some of those features I don't use because it's more expensive. So for fax, I use Doximity for outgoing fax. And
Mm-hmm.
then I've got a VoIP phone service. Most people do VoIP now for phones rather than a traditional line. And you can get fax through that. You can set it up all sorts of different ways. I currently use 3CX, so that's part of the tech platform. So that's
What
for
is that?
it's a VoIP kind of hosting service where, well, actually, it's a VoIP service, but you have to get it hosted, and you can host it either with them or you can host it on something like Amazon Web Services. Now, it's not. Once again, it's not for like the user friendly. It's took
Right.
a couple days of like digging deep and figuring out how to set it up, and I ran into a lot of issues, but it ends up being so much cheaper because I do it myself. So that's part of the tech stack as well.
So is that are those calls coming in going to like a landline on your practice, or where are the calls coming into?
No, so VoIP runs through the internet. So the phones plug in either usually through the internet, an Ethernet port, but some of them you can also do Wi-Fi, but then not as great quality and phone service. So It's basically you don't need a traditional analog line. Like you don't have to call Spectrum and say, "Hey, I need
Hmm.
phone lines." And almost everybody now uses VoIP. Some of them are softwares like SaaS that you can just subscribe to, and they'll get $60 a month, and then $6 per user,
Mm.
and then you get a front
Right.
desk, one in the clinical areas. But 3CX building it through that way is just a cheaper way where you have to set it up all your way. You have all those capabilities, but it's not as easy as, hey, just
Right.
sign up
Right.
here and then boom, you're good to
Got
go.
it. Very cool. And what about, are you using an AI scribe yet?
So I'm not right now. ModMed has their AI scribe for better or for worse. It's pretty expensive. I think they're charging another like
Oh,
$500 a month
wow.
for
You
it or
can definitely
something. I'm
get
not
one
really sure.
for cheaper than.
Yeah, and there's a couple of reasons why I didn't go with that at the start. One, I just wanted for everybody to know how to document,
Hmm.
just in case, you don't want to be reliant like, oh, the AI scribe doesn't work today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then like we've got 30 notes that we don't know how to figure out. There's another AI scribe that is being developed by dermatologists called SubQ Docs. And so there's some dermatologists using that. There's AI scribe that's much more basic called Freed AI, which just, takes the recording and you can copy and paste it into the note. So thankfully, because we're slow and we don't have that many patients, we can spend a lot of time on documentation. So I'm sure we will implement it at some point. But there's now also what we're looking at is AI phone services that can refill
Oh,
prescriptions, put
wow.
in requests, can schedule patients. So there's some platforms that are advertising a lot, and I'll be exploring those as we build. But number one is just keeping overhead
Yeah.
low and just trying to keep things as cheap as possible.
Makes sense. One thing that doesn't keep overhead low, but is sometimes necessary, I mean, depending on how viral you go on TikTok, what are you doing from a marketing perspective? I know, like, getting out, I'm sure, in the community to network and get referrals, but are you doing anything else? Like, are you thinking about running paid ads or Google ads, ZocDoc, things like that? What's your plan for that?
So I've gotten this a lot as well. So ZocDoc, I've thought about all those things that you've mentioned. ZocDoc is expensive, so you have to pay for patients scheduled, and then if they cancel or no
It
show, you're
doesn't
still
matter.
paying that.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I was like, yeah, I'm done with that. I mean, that's very not supportive of somebody who's just trying to grow. Um, I think that for us as physicians, I don't know if it's as high yield to do paid ads. Now, if you're in the cosmetic world, sure, but know that in the cosmetic world, if I'm trying to advertise Botox and think against every other med spa on every corner, it's going to take a lot of money to get that one patient to come
Hmm.
in for that Botox. It's a lot easier to just get patients who just need a dermatologist. They got a rash, they got acne,
Right.
and just being on Google Maps, having good reviews, things like that, having availability. So I have some friends who are going the paid ads on Google and things like that, and we're kind of keeping track of each other and seeing how everybody's doing. But there's so many different variables within that
Hmm.
that I am not going down that route. I just don't think it's as high yield. I've been doing a lot of visits with primary care doctors and say, hey, I can get your patients in immediately. We just opened,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we can make their lives easier. We can take good care of patients, and I think that's higher yield than trying to, uh, you know pay 100, 200 a month.
Oh yeah, way. If you're doing paid ads, it's gonna be way more than
Oh yeah, you could go.
that.
I mean, you just set the mark.
Yeah,
You set the budget, right? You could do 1,000,
yeah,
2,000, 3,000.
yeah.
Even for me, I'm like 200 a month. I'm okay. Like I'll make more TikToks.
Yeah, well, I have some experience with paid ads just from my tutoring company, and I'd say that it definitely can work. Obviously, it's not the same industry, but you really have to watch it like a hawk, because if it depends, if like you have an agency running it for you, then you're paying the agency a high fee, and then if the paid ads don't perform, then not only are you not ROI positive on the ad itself, but then you also owe the whoever's doing the media buying for you. Um, I feel like it can work, and it could lead to growth faster, but yeah, then what are your margins? And then there's a lot of variables, like you said, the ad creatives that you're using, the like sales funnel that then you have to essentially think about, of like, okay, someone opts in, how quick are you calling them, who's doing that, what are you talking to them on the phone about, all these things, that it definitely seems like if you can get good word of mouth and a good reputation online, that's definitely going to be long term the most sustainable.
I think so. And the question is, why and how do people pick their doctors? So when you're looking up somebody, what are you looking at? And I don't know of people who necessarily say, "Hey, I'm just clicking the top link on Google and I'm going to this person." Now, I will say that it's been proven time and time again that people will not drive for a doctor for a long time compared to just going to the guy near them. So unless they have some special relationship with that physician, most people are like, "I just want to go somewhere close to home, close to work, drive 10, 15 minutes. I don't care otherwise." But then people are looking at, okay, where did you train? Who is this person? And I do think now more patients are paying attention to who they're seeing and where they trained. And I'm very blessed to have some good institutions behind me that kind of show my credibility. And so for me, I was like, I don't think being the number one click and being a sponsored
Right,
click on
right.
Google would help me get more patients. Now I think every single patient that comes through the door, I ask them, hey, can you leave me a Google review? Can you support me? Tell your friends about me. I think that goes a long way. And remember, once you're busy, then you're busy. Like, you don't really go from having 30 to 40 patients a day to then going 10 patients a day. It's usually a one-way street.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah. True. So how are you enjoying the extra time right now before the patient census is full?
Yeah, there's not really been that much extra time, and I don't know how I could do it if I was seeing 20 patients a day right now. Because even today, every single hour that I'm not doing something, I'm calling an insurance company because I need access to their
Mm,
portal. I'm answering emails. I'm ordering supplies. I'm opening accounts with different vendors. I'm sorting out problems. I'm always, oh, this doesn't work. How do we do this? And so, although we're not super busy actually seeing patients right now, I mean, I get here, I'm the whole time swamped doing random stuff and then staying after clinic for a couple hours trying to wrap everything up and then going home and then being
wow.
like, oh, I should answer emails because they're piling up.
Wow.
So it's been busy, and it's a blessing and a curse to not have that many patients at the start. And it's honestly great because I know that that time will come, in the future, hopefully, and we'll have a better system in place and not have to figure things out once we're busy.
Makes sense. Very cool. So, I'll leave you with one last question, or actually two. What was one thing so far that's been unexpected in terms of opening the private practice, and whether, I mean, you might have just answered it, the fact that you're still so busy, but without as many patients, but
Yeah, people mention it and they're like, oh, it's, a 24/7 job. And I think you don't really realize it until you're in those shoes, how 24/7 it is. But I think the most unexpected thing for me, maybe a half and half answer. One is that just how much you care about every little thing, and how much time, like, I just want to invest in everything. And now, like, I look at the place I work at, and I'm like,
mm,
oh, I want this to be clean. I want this to be, like this and perfect for my patients, and how much more invested I got into it as it's kind of come to fruition. And I see it just so much more than just a workplace. It's like something that I've helped build for um, the community, and it's just been awesome. And then on the other side, it's like 24/7 because you
mm,
could always be doing something. Like, there's never my to-do list has
and
never
it
hit
never will
zero
ever
since
again,
I
probably.
decided to start practice. It never will. Like, there's always something I could be doing. And even if I've got a couple hours, well, I could be making a
Right.
TikTok, which could help with marketing, and that could help get patients in. I could be making things a little bit more advanced on this side. I can make more protocols for the EMR so my staff can document easier. I can look at my bookkeeping, make sure I'm up to date on that, which I haven't done in like 2, 3 weeks. So I've got like a million transactions to go through. There's always something I could be doing, and it can be a little bit rough because everyone gets one of those days where you're just kind of done with everything. And we all get it, when we're at work and we have one of those days. And I had one. And then you're just seeing things pile up and you're just like, I just
Yeah.
want to take 24 hours
I
off,
mean,
man.
you're describing not
It's
just
like,
like a private practice specifically, but that's just entrepreneurship in general. Because once you, yeah,
yeah,
very cool.
100%, 100%. And that's what we're signing up for. But I'll tell you, when I was working as an employee and had a lot more free time, after going through medical training and always wanting to do more and being like, okay, what else am I want to get? I want to get residency, fellowship. I want to publish, do these things. And then I had all this free time. Unfortunately, it was like the most depressed I've ever been.
Mm,
I was like, dude, what do I do? Like, I have all this time. Like, I need to be doing something. I need to be learning. I need to be growing. And that was one of the reasons why I dove down, this adventure. And now I've probably had the busiest month I've ever had since maybe applying for fellowship or even more than that. But I feel like
Right.
I'm happier than I
That's
have
cool.
been in a long, long time. And so it's busy, but it's also so rewarding and so fun. And for me, I want to be busy. I want to have things to do. I feel like I always need to be thinking about something, and that's just like my stable, happy state.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, like you, if you have a growth mindset, I feel like for like with owning your own practice, there's always ways to improve it. And not saying that you can't do this in some sense if you're an employed physician, but you're sort of clocking in and clocking out at your job. You're not looking to make improvements to the efficiency of the hospital system. I mean, maybe if you're in a role that does that, but when you have your own practice every day, you're thinking about how can I improve it? What's the next step? What do we have to develop today? Whether it's a protocol, marketing, seeing patients, hiring staff, etc.
And I love learning and expanding my tools kit and everything. So on the business side, learning about the finances, learning about leases, learning about owning real estate, all the different tax avenues. How do you deal with taxes? What do business taxes look like? What do deductions look like? All the bookkeeping and the finances and the insurance contracts. And so all these different aspects that I didn't get to learn about in medical school and residency, being able to learn there and just add that to my knowledge and my the information that I can keep and apply it to different things. I think that's the part that I love, and I just know that there's always something more that I can get from somewhere. And so just to keep growing and keep learning, and I think that's what keeps me happy and keeps it going and makes it just so much more rewarding than just going to work. Because once you're done with medical training, and I know you're in residency and you're like, man, I can't wait to never read again. But
Yeah.
anybody who goes through medicine, we're all so accustomed to continually like learning more and what's the next step and what's next. And at some point it does stop. And for a lot of us, I think we just are like, whoa, wait, like, what do we do now? You know?
Yeah. 100%. Very cool. Awesome. I mean, this was super insightful. Learning about your journey specifically and starting a practice. What's one piece of advice you could leave the listeners who are mostly like med students and residents and some attending physicians about going into private practice if that's what they're interested in, or just kind of anything in general?
Yeah, okay, one quick one and one I'll delve in a little bit more. So a quick one is, if you want to do it, it's not whether you can, it's just whether you want to. Like I'll tell you that right now. You want to start a private practice, if you've gone through med school, you're in residency, you become a physician, you've worked so hard, you've done so much, you 100% can do it. It's just whether you want to do it. And it's not for everybody, but you just have to determine that yourself. And then the second thing I'd say is, I've been saying yes to a lot more opportunities that I might have said no to a long time ago. And if there's events or there's something going on, uh, I've been like, yeah, let's do it, because I've met so many cool people and found so many opportunities through different things. And so I would say, as a piece of advice, as a medical student, as a resident, if somebody asks you, hey, you want to be involved in this? Do you want to be in this committee? You want to go to this meeting? You want to say yes and just do it. And you'll never know. You'll be surprised at who you meet, different opportunities, what you learn, and you'll look back and be like, oh my God, I'm so grateful I went and was involved in this thing, because it led to all these other doors be open. And so I've been trying to be a little bit more on the yes side recently, and I think it's been a lot of fun and awesome. So that's a piece of advice I would say. Just say yes.
Love it. Love it. That's why you said yes to
Coming
coming
on
on
the
the podcast
podcast.
today.
That's one of the reasons.
Well,
It's like, let's do it.
I I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope to speak soon.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, man. This has been awesome, and I'm always grateful to teach. So hopefully we'll get to do it again soon, and we'll delve into another topic.